Hi, I'm Bitcoin, and you've probably heard about me before. I'm the digital cash of the
I'm
internet.
Bitcoin.
You're not Bitcoin, I'm Bitcoin. No, I'm Bitcoin Cash, the digital peer-to-peer cryptocurrency like our creator, Satoshi Nakamoto, the guy you forgot about, envisioned for us to be. You know what? All right, we doing this again? Seriously, we going back to 2017? All right,
Yeah,
fine.
well, I guess we are, but you started it.
I didn't start anything. I won the debate. Clearly, I should be the more valuable Bitcoin. You know what? You have no room to talk, like literally no room to talk, because you have a max block size of 1 megabyte, which means you can't scale on chain. You have to scale off chain, which means you're not the real Bitcoin that is based on true blockchain technology. Okay, dude, first of all, please use words that fit your market cap. Right. And second of all, you're a big blocker.
Oh, me, a big blocker?
Yeah, you're a big blocker. And that just means that you're centralized because you're controlled by the miners. You're not Bitcoin, you're miner coin. You know what? You always think you're right. No, you always think you're right. Mr. Right. If you know, you know. Mr. Right. Scammer. You know what? We're never gonna agree on anything. No, no, we're not. You know what, Andre? Please do us a favor and just explain the story of Bitcoin and whatever this Bitcoin Cash. Rude. Thank you. Okay, Bitcoin Cash, and please just tell it like it is because we clearly can't agree on anything. Here we go again. Yeah, here we go again. Thank you, Bitcoin. Thank you, Bitcoin Cash. Hi, my name is Andrei Jikh. Hope you're feeling good. Come for the finance and stay for the craziest story of Bitcoin that you've probably never heard about. And that's the story of Bitcoin Cash. Now, it's always fun to watch those two debate because they can never agree on anything, even though they are basically the same. They're like two twins that hate each other. And that's because they represent two different money social experiments that are still going on today. So Bitcoin BTC is trying to become the store of value of the future, digital gold, a world reserve currency. And Bitcoin Cash is trying to become a peer-to-peer digital cash of the internet, something that's fast and cheap and ready to use across the world. Now, I'm gonna be as objective about this story as possible, and hopefully after you watch this video, you'll understand how Bitcoin works a little bit better and the biggest problem that Bitcoin faces today and how each of these two coins is trying to solve that problem. So let me start this video with a disclosure and show you my holdings. That way you're not like, this guy's a pump and dumper. I pump, but I never dump. I'm just always constipated. So here's my BTC Bitcoin holdings right here. It's a pretty large portfolio. That wasn't always the case. And again, I'm not showing you this to show off how much money I have. It's just so you know about any potential conflicts of interest. But I also have Bitcoin Cash. In fact, I have more coins. I have more in quantity, but they are worth a lot less. They're a lot less valuable. I have something like 20, maybe 21 Bitcoin Cash, but again, they're worth a lot less than that. Either way, I have a vested interest in the success of both because I really do like both coins. Seriously, I thought he'd be objective about this. You know what? I quit. You know what? Seriously, man, amateur hour. Smash the dislike button twice. See, you can't win with crypto, so I will try my best, and if I miss something or if I get something wrong, I apologize. It is not intentional. It's because they were right and I am an amateur, so please go easy on me. So let's begin at the beginning. When Bitcoin was created in 2009 by Satoshi Nakamoto, which by the way, to this day, we still don't know who he, she, or they are, they released something called the white paper, which to a lot of crypto enthusiasts is sort of like the Bible. And a lot of people have framed it, they've hung it on their wall, and they've obsessed over it because it's a really important part of Bitcoin's history. Now this right here is not it. This is a cardistry Bible, which I've had because I'm a nerd. But in that paper, which Satoshi titled Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, he described what Bitcoin was and what it was meant to be, which was supposed to be a person-to-person electronic cash system that would allow online payments to be sent directly from one party to another without going through a financial institution. And believe it or not, somebody predicted the creation of Bitcoin 10 years before it actually happened.
The one thing that's missing, but that will soon be developed, is a reliable e-cash, a method whereby on the internet you can transfer funds from A to B without A knowing B or B knowing A.
Crazy, right? That was Nobel Prize-winning economist Milton Friedman. And in 2009, Bitcoin was worth roughly $0. And today, it's floating around $45,000, which is also why you hear people say, I wish I put in $100 into Bitcoin back then. I would be a millionaire. Oh snap, did you see the bubblehead? I love it when he does that. He means me, by the way, not you. That's not technically true. Technically, that means both of us in 2009. 2009 because that was before the split. Now, as Bitcoin started to gain popularity from people sharing their story about how they got rich off Bitcoin, two things started to happen. The first is volatility. Bitcoin would go from $10 to 100, then back down to 10, then from 100 to 1,000, back down to 100. It got crazy. But the second thing that happened was an even bigger problem, and it was a problem from within. It was the scaling problem, which happens to all technologies when they become popular enough. How do you bring a technology to 100 people and then to 1,000,000 people and then to 1,000,000,000 people? Because if Bitcoin is to compete with payment processors like Visa, for example, it has to back up those numbers. And right now, unfortunately, it can't. The average transactions per second on the Bitcoin network today is something like 3.8. So about 4 transactions per second. Now, if we compare that against Visa's average, that would be 1,700 transactions per second. So a lot more. And Visa is capable of even way more for free. So if you're Bitcoin and you're claiming to be this cash system for the entire world, you gotta pump up those rookie numbers. That's why in 2017, Bitcoin's problem became so big that the mempool started to fill up. The mempool is where all transactions go to wait. It's sort of like we are all waiting at the bus stop, right? But all these buses that are coming are so full that we have to bribe the bus driver an insane amount of money that it's not even worth getting on the bus in the first place. So we've got two options. We can either make the buses bigger, or we can SegWit, which is segregated witness. And that's where the real story begins. In 2017, the Bitcoin community wanted the same thing. It wanted to scale and bring Bitcoin to the masses so that grandpa and grandma could use it to buy their bankrolled 20-cent iced coffees with, but they wanted to get there in two different ways, which is why in August of 2017, Bitcoin fractured in two, and it split into Bitcoin BTC and Bitcoin Cash BCH. Now, people who supported Bitcoin Cash wanted to increase the block size from 1 megabyte to 8 megabytes. That way we could go from 4 transactions per second to a throughput of 32 transactions per second. And because you increase the block size, you allow more transactions to fit into the block, which means less competition, which means we pay less fees. Now, the people who supported Bitcoin BTC said, let's not increase the block size and let's instead use something called SegWit, or segregated witness, which basically allows people to exclude the digital signature from a transaction, which means now you could fit more transactions into the same block because again, you're omitting that digital signature, which carries with it a ton of data. A digital signature has something like 50% of the transaction weight inside of it.
See, I'm lost already. That doesn't make sense. Does that make sense to anybody still watching this video?
Yeah, it does actually. Don't insult his audience. They're very smart
But
people.
why make it so complicated?
Just give him a minute. He's about to explain it.
All right.
Thank you. So imagine that same bus stop analogy where you're waiting with your stuff, the bus arrives, you get on, but you leave your stuff behind because it will join you later. That's because your stuff can sometimes be big and very heavy, and we need to bribe the bus driver with more money if we want our stuff to be included. So by leaving our stuff behind, we could save on space and therefore on cost, and that's SegWit. You're not increasing the block size. You're increasing the effective block size by decreasing the size of the transaction itself. Does that make more sense?
No, it still doesn't, but okay, fine. That's a short-term solution to a long-term problem. What are you gonna do, double the transaction to 8 transactions per second? That's still not as good enough as Visa. Smash the like button if you agree with me.
And comment if you don't. That's smart. I love how you guys think. Views and ad rates are down this month for some reason, so please subscribe and smash the like button. Thank you for your sacrifice.
Yeah, but that's nowhere near 1,700 transactions per second like Visa. How do you plan to compete and fix
Okay,
that?
Andre, tell him about the secret weapon. Tell him about the Lightning Network. All right, here we go. Bitcoin's secret weapon, the Lightning Network. Now, part of the upgrade that SegWit gave Bitcoin is solving something called the malleability problem, which I'm gonna just skip right over because it's very complex, but it basically allowed Bitcoin to upgrade and scale not the blockchain itself, but to scale off-chain with something called the Lightning Network. So instead of 1,700 transactions a second like Visa's doing, the Lightning Network allows Bitcoin to theoretically scale to millions of transactions a second for almost free. And here's how that works. Let's imagine that we opened a Lightning Network off-chain with each other. So here's a little digital wallet that we each deposit 1 Bitcoin into. It doesn't have to be a full Bitcoin, it could be whatever you want, but just for the sake of illustration, why do I have rubles?
So let's imagine I put 1 Bitcoin into this digital wallet and I locked it. So now we have a locked wallet with Bitcoins that we cannot move. At this point in time, we are then issued IOUs, which represent a portion of that Bitcoin. Now you and I can exchange an infinite amount of times for almost free instantaneously, and the real coins that are locked inside of our wallets do not move until we are finished. Nothing is moved, only the IOUs. When we're happy with all the transactions we've made, it's at this point when we can close the channel, pay the final fee, and that's when the coins that were locked inside of our wallets are then distributed accordingly based on our transactions, and we settle on layer 1. And it's at this point where you have to make up your own mind about what is the best way to scale Bitcoin, on-chain or off-chain. So here are some pros and cons. So I'll start with Bitcoin Cash and explain why it's good and why it's bad to increase the block size. The reason that it's good is because it's the simplest and easiest solution to just increase the block size, which also allows it to stay true to the white paper that Satoshi created for Bitcoin, if you're somebody who believes that Bitcoin was meant to be a cash system rather than just a digital store of value like it is today. And it's also a lot less risky because we don't have to change anything fundamentally to the base layer that is blockchain. We are still using the blockchain, so if it's not broken, let's not fix it. So increasing the block size allows us to do all of that and keep it simple. The reason we don't want to increase the block size is because increasing the block size comes at the cost of decentralization. If you increase the block size, you have a lot more data for people to download. Eventually, if Bitcoin succeeds and there are millions of people around the world that are using it to buy their coffee with, the blockchain becomes so large that normal people can't set up a node and they can't download the Bitcoin ledger. And that makes it much more centralized because the only people that can participate at that point would be big business, and that's a big problem. If big miners or big corporations are the only entities that can participate on the Bitcoin network, that means they have to be compliant. And compliance is just a fancy word for asking and needing permission from the government. And if the government tomorrow says, hey guys, you can't use Bitcoin anymore, that means they have to listen because they have to be compliant and we wouldn't be able to use Bitcoin. So increasing the block size does solve the problem today and makes it cheaper to use, but it also comes at the expense of decentralization.
Andrei, please explain Moore's Law to people because literally everything you just said is completely wrong.
Okay, the response from the Bitcoin Cash side is that I'm technically wrong and things will not become centralized because of something called Moore's Law. And that states that technology becomes more efficient, more powerful, and cheaper every 2 years. And so far that's been very true because when I was 11 years old in the year 2000, my dad bought me this. This is an 8 megabyte memory card for the PS2, and he spent $50 at Best Buy to get me this. Now today, you could get 128 gigs worth of storage for roughly the same amount of money. You could buy 16,000 of these memory cards for about the same price. My dad would have had to spend roughly $800,000 to buy the same amount, and that's why today it's easily accessible because of Moore's Law. And so the argument is Moore's Law will keep things cheap and accessible to everyone and keep things decentralized. So now let me give you the pros and cons of what it means to scale off-chain using the Lightning Network to infinity and beyond.
The benefit is that it allows Bitcoin to become an everyday usable currency that we can buy our coffees with. That way we're not just selfishly hodling it like, man, I bought it and it's mine. Using it makes it more valuable, and that's really important. And technically, Lightning is already here. It already works, just not at scale yet because it still has some security risks, which are really hard to explain. So I'll just give you a really simple version of that. The first problem is that whenever you scale off-chain, you are scaling without using the blockchain, which means you're creating an entirely new technology that hasn't been proven yet. And with that comes its own set of risks of exploits and attacks that we just don't know about yet. Not to mention that the Lightning Network is owned by Lightning Labs, which is a private company with its own profit motive, and with it comes its own set of risks, even if those risks are small. But arguably the biggest problem with scaling off-chain, according to Bitcoin Cash, is that if the Lightning Network is not done properly, it could in theory recreate the current fractional reserve banking system. So let me just explain. Remember when we used to use gold as a currency?
Me neither. But life was like that. And gold is layer 1. It's not very practical though, just like Bitcoin, it's heavy, it's slow, it's expensive. So we had to scale, and we scaled gold with a layer 2 solution, off-chain technically, by printing these. These were the IOUs, and at some point, for every dollar you had, you could go to the bank and collect it for a piece of gold. Just like in the Lightning Network, we exchange whatever these IOUs are, and then we settle on the blockchain. All of that is fair. But in 1971, we came off the gold standard, and we no longer had any representation behind what this IOU meant and how much gold we had on hand. And so the warning is, if we don't do the second layer right, if it's not connected to the fundamental base layer, that technology might become so different that it would disconnect from reality and how many Bitcoins we even have. So nobody asked, but here are my personal thoughts. I still think that both technologies are a valid way of bringing Bitcoin to the masses. And who knows, maybe in the future we find out that scaling on-chain by increasing the block size is the better way to do that, or maybe the Lightning Network is really the best way. Who knows? That's why I hold both coins, because I think diversification is key, and I'm rooting for both to win, because regardless of which one wins, we all win. And even if we don't use Bitcoin to buy our coffees with as a normal currency, I still feel Bitcoin is going to become the most valuable asset in the world, which is why I think it's one of the best places to invest my money.
All right, seriously, man, can we agree on one thing?
What?
This video was good. No, I disagree. He missed out on so many details. It was a bad video. I quit.
Internet. You just can't win.
In the meantime, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Go get up to $250 worth of free Bitcoin with this BlockFi link right here, blockfi.com/Andrei. Go get your 2 free stocks with Webull. When you deposit $100 using my link down below, you can get 2 free stocks valued up to $2,300. Then you can go track them automatically with the spreadsheet link down below in my Patreon. Love you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you back here on Monday, Friday, sometimes a Wednesday. Please don't hate me. I've tried my best to explain both sides, but I'd love to know your thoughts about how Bitcoin should be scaling. In the meantime, I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.